Great. It looks like we're already streaming live on Facebook.
Cool.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Carolina Quesada with the Nonprofit Partnership, welcoming you to another interview in our series called Our Stories, Our Time. And in this series, we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting their work and that of their teams. We fully understand that keeping connected during these times is really important. It really matters. And not just as family members and friends and neighbors, but also as colleagues and peers in the nonprofit community. And today we are really fortunate to have a dynamic duo with us today. We are joined by co-executive directors Kim Hughes and Sara Silva of EntreNous Compton Youth Build. Welcome, Kim and Sara.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Great. Wonderful to have you both here today. Tell us a little bit more about EntreNous.
Oh, talk it your way, Sara. Go.
So EntreNous Youth Empowerment Services is a nonprofit, and we are based in Compton, California. And we work with young people ages 16 to 24 who have been pushed out or have been dropped out of traditional education. We focus on an accredited high school diploma and workforce development in the areas of the construction industry, as well as culinary and hospitality arts.
Great. And you also incorporate a youth build program model into what you do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Right. So Youth Build USA is our national partner in the work that we do. We're a licensed affiliate in both Compton and Whittier, California. And Youth Build USA was founded in 1978 in East Harlem, New York, with the idea that if young people are held lovingly accountable, they will rise to the challenge of making sure that their life is productive and that their communities are thriving. So there's a Youth Build model that includes workforce development, education, counseling, community service and advocacy, as well as leadership development. And the idea is that we empower young people to fulfill their goals.
Great, thank you for that. So, one of the things that we are curious about is your organizational structure. And I know a few days ago when we had a chance to connect with you, we were talking about your organization, your structure, what you are seeing right now in your services, your program as a result of the pandemic. But you have a really unique structure in that you have two executive directors for EntreNous. So tell us a little bit more about how that came to be and how that leadership model informs the work that you do.
I think it's one of those structures where people go, what? And, understanding that Sara and I had known each other for a while, I think it's really useful if you have a friendship. So we had been working together for many years when we decided to start this crazy thing called EntreNous Youth Empowerment Service with an eye to becoming, Compton Youth Build. And so what we find is if you have complementary skill set, Sara has a great skill set in what she does. I have a great skill set in what I do. When you put those two together, it kind of makes for a great team. There are days when we say, okay, there are two bodies, one brain, but mostly, we complement each other. And so during this kind of pandemic, because we have very separate areas of responsibility, it's easier for us to support each other, but not only support each other, but to focus on the work. So it helps tremendously with that kind of stressors that come along with what are we going to do now? How are we going to manage? How are we going to move the work forward? So because we have been doing this now since 2012, almost 8 years, we have learned a lot around how to make it work. How do you move forward? Even with a little bit of marriage counseling, as we call it, because we spend a lot of time together, and in any relationship, whether it be with a family member, whether it be with a spouse or a friend, there are going to be hiccups along the way. And so over the last 8 years, we've managed to learn how to deal with our hiccups. right? So we look at it, we kind of look at our relationship as a Venn diagram. She's got an area of responsibility that she handles as operations and financial. I have an area that I handle as running programs. And then we have that overlap in the middle. And that overlap in the middle, if I'm primary on something, she's secondary, and vice versa. So the structure has been really good during this time because we can split the work, we can split the craziness and stay sane.
And, yes, I'm sorry, Sarah, would you like to add more to that?
No, that was pretty good description of the relationship. I mean, I think shared leadership is difficult for all leaders, and having very clear ideas about what are Kim's areas that she focuses on and what are mine, so that we're not duplicating our efforts. So we've gotten much better at that as time has gone on. When we first started, we shared everything, even an office. We realized about 2 years into it that wasn't very efficient. So we've gotten very good at sharing responsibility, but also understanding this is her wheelhouse, this is mine. But it is not for everyone, that's for sure. Because it is very much like a marriage, and being able to communicate and understand what is business versus what is personal is difficult, I think, for all leaders, let alone those who share an executive director role.
Right. And so I think now turning the page a little bit in our particular conversation, understanding you are really a youth serving organization. Tell us about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted your services.
So we have an on-site charter school partner. So we offer an accredited high school diploma, and per the governor's orders, all schools are closed through the remainder of the school year. So for the about 75 young people that were engaged in our high school diploma program, all of their learning has moved online. We distributed laptops and made sure folks had Wi-Fi. Teachers moved all their classes online. So that's been a huge shift for us, because traditionally the young people we serve have not thrived in distance learning environments. They have really blossomed by having very small classes with highly motivated teachers. And so that's been a big shift about how do you transfer that love and dedication from a teacher to a student on a video screen. So that's been a big shift. I'll let Kim talk a little bit about how our construction cohort has shifted, because that's her primary area of responsibility.
So, it's always a challenge. Our young people are not as adept with technology. So as we're getting comfortable with technology, we have to try to get them, comfortable with the technology. So that's been a bit of a struggle, but, a couple of weeks in, they start to get the hang of it, and making sure that we are touching them in some way each day. So we offer a daily, but over the course of the week, ways in which we can touch base. 2 days are around how do we manage our emotions, how do we manage living with people 24/7. No one was meant to live with someone 24/7. I don't care who you are, whether it's your cat, your dog, your husband, your son, it's enough, right? It's enough. So, dealing with all of the emotions and the anxieties that come, and stressors, a lot of stressors that come on with that, it's really helping them cope. And while you're coping as a staff member with the same kinds of changes and intrusions. So they're doing well. We're having a completion ceremony for them next week on Wednesday, and we'd love for you all to join us. It's just getting them to understand this might be the new normal. And as the new normal, we're all going to kind of roll with it. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to fluff things up, and we just really we ask for their patience and understanding, and they've been really, really good about it. So it's been a learning journey. We've been off since the 17th of March, so we are more than 45 days in, and now have the hang of it. Everybody knows how to use the technology and the tools. Everybody knows how to reach out because we use Google phone numbers so they can call us when they need to. So it's working out well.
How's
Ready to go back though.
Tell us a little bit more, though, about the transition that your staff team has undergone.
We have, I keep saying during this pandemic that there is a blessing and a silver lining in things that that happen. For us, because we are part of the Department of Labor grant, we received a $1.1 million grant from them to run our construction cohort. There's been a lot of trainings going on by our organization, Youth Build USA, every single day. So when we have these kind of trainings, normally not everyone goes. You know, one person will go or two persons will go. If it's out of state, we can't send everybody. Now we all get to be on the training together, so we're all seeing and learning at the same time. So when I go on a training or Sarah goes on training, we bring back whatever our lens is, what we want the team to know. You can't bring back it all, right? So you pick those couple of things. Now as a team, we're looking and hearing the same things, and then we get to discuss, well, what was your aha moment? What worked for you? What did you see? And looking at it from a whole different perspective, and strengthening our systems and strengthening our structures. One of the things I keep saying to them is, look, you know, this is a great opportunity that we will never, ever get again in life, hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, that we can really shore up our program, straighten up, because we don't get that time at the office and the work because we're dealing with people. Now we don't have folks all day long the way we normally do. So now we get to really focus on the program, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to tighten up. And as it's also shown us some holes in our program and in our systems and structures. So it's been a fabulous opportunity to really get everybody trained. We meet every single day for 2 hours because we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. Mm-hmm. Every day, staff submits their daily agenda. Every evening, they tell us what they've done, what they finished, their summary. And so that it lets me make sure that, A, they're not overloaded with what they've been given in terms of tasks. And if they don't have enough, want to make sure that they have enough work. You know, we are responsible to what I call masters. So the Department of Labor is one of our masters. The charter school is one of our masters because we serve as facilitation for both of those programs. So whatever grants funders we have in process, we still have to speak to that. And while there's leeway because everybody understands things are operating differently, we still have a responsibility. So we're still doing recruiting. We've had a couple of online virtual information meetings. That's been a real hoot. Learn the hard way the first time you cannot work the technology and facilitate the meeting. So we've added some structure in there as well. So it's been great. And our team is loving it.
I think we've all had to overcome some barriers with using technology and having to acclimate pretty quickly as well. Yes. And Sara, I know that that your organization, you know, really values its team and you honor your team, and you have, perhaps you can call them certain rituals you do, but there are certain things that you do to let your staff know that you value them. How is that changing during this time?
So yes, building culture with our team is actually a really critical component of what we do, because Kim and I honestly believe that if our team is not doing well, our young people won't do well. So we normally have a Monday morning staff meeting at the office where we get the whole team together, no matter what department you're in, whether you're with the charter school or with the Department of Labor grant, whatever capacity you have in the agency. And we always start with a check-in question that the facilitator gets to pick. So sometimes it's something more recent, like what did you do over the weekend? Or sometimes it's much more philosophical. And so we're continuing that. We're doing a weekly call on Monday morning with the whole team. We've had various different themes to our meeting to keep it fun. One week we had a "Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego" theme, and everyone had to submit a picture of themselves somewhere, and the rest of the team had to kind of figure out where they were. And so we got to learn a little bit about where people have gone or who important is in their life. We also always have a book club throughout the year. We pick books that tend not to be around educational leadership, something a little bit different about what we can use to make our programs even more effective. So we're continuing that as well. We had to shut down mid-book, so we finished our book virtually. And again, that's all shared leadership. And one of the biggest things we do is we tell our staff all the time how much we appreciate them. Even though Kim and I create the space, without the team, nothing gets done. So as a reminder for all the leaders out there, next week is actually Staff Appreciation Week. And normally we do activities every single day during the week, bringing Jamba Juice, bringing Porto's Bakery, having a culminating lunch together on Fridays. So since we can't do any of those things, we've come up with some creative ways to share the love to our team's homes, and they should be getting those things starting next week. So it's remembering that we as individuals are going through all the same crises, adjusting to home, looking at financial uncertainty, figuring out how to deliver services in a new way that none of us were equipped to do.
Yeah.
And that your team and your employees need as much love and support as our young people are, as your clients do. So just really trying to continue to spread the love and stay positive and share as much information with them as we can about what we're hearing, but also not overwhelming them with what's happening.
Yes.
So.
And, I think what you're sharing right now is also resonating with a lot of other executive directors out there who are very appreciative that their staff have made these changes to acclimate to this new environment, a new workflow, and are, I think, also appreciating, to your point earlier, Kim, the silver lining in all of this, that if there is some additional time to go back into some level of training or capacity building, or even just taking time to assess, how are we doing what we're doing? Is this the time that, can we take this time to do what we never have time for during the regular work year, or, whatever your work cycle looks like? So I think that a lot of folks are resonating with some of what you're saying. Shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about some of what you're hearing from the community. For example, you work with young people, you know how impacted they are, but then of course, with this pandemic situation, it's just upped at so many different levels. We also know that you have a campaign going on. So how are you tying that to what you're hearing happening in the community?
So one of the benefits of being a member of our program is that all young people receive free breakfast and lunch every day through the school lunch program, which, as everyone understands, the schools are closed. So we're not able to provide that service right now. So what we did was create a fundraising campaign to help generate support to be able to provide our families with the food resources that we would normally be giving their young people on a day-to-day basis. So for those who are not aware, next Tuesday is Giving Tuesday now. Giving Tuesday is normally the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, but due to the pandemics and how nonprofits throughout the country are being affected, they created a Giving Tuesday Now campaign, which is on Cinco de Mayo, by the way, next Tuesday. Which is a national day of giving to help nonprofits adjust to the new challenges that they're facing. So we started a campaign, and through the generosity of our donors, have $9,000 in matching funds.
Great.
So we're trying to raise at least $18,000, which will be distributed directly to our young people. This is not for paying paychecks. This is not for paying rent or the bills or anything like that. This is how can we directly distribute that money to the young people and the families that we serve so that they can continue to weather this very trying time. So we're excited so far. We've raised $16,000. So we're really excited and so appreciative of our donors for that support.
So I think one of the things people may not be realized is, although schools like LAUSD and Long Beach have opened up their campuses to distribute food to students, it's students 18 and under the age of 18. And because we serve a non-traditional age range from 16 to 24 plus, we go up to 29 in our charter school program, those young people who are older are not accessing the foods. Not only do we serve breakfast and lunch, but we also have fresh produce that's delivered every week, which we no longer can have during this time. So those resources that would normally access at our site when they're not there anymore. So we decided that we wanted to make sure that our young people had food, that their families had food. And so we will be distributing every dime directly to them in a way that they can go to their local supermarket and buy food.
Thank you. And this again is an age group that, to your point, typically it's not served by these food programs, and so you are meeting a need where there is a gap, quite honestly, in services. And I just wanted to tell you that there are some folks that are logged in right now. One of them is Malika Chris. Hi, Malika from Love Beyond Limits. Thank you for watching. And she sends her love to Kim and to Sarah. So thank you for that. And so if folks who are watching, or maybe they'll share this video afterwards, how can people contribute to the campaign?
I'll let Sarah answer that one.
So you can go to our website. The easiest web address is www.comptonyouthbuild.org. EntreNous Youth is a little bit harder to spell, so comptonyouthbuild.org, and there's a donate button, and we would appreciate it. I also posted on Facebook and put a donation button there as well.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that we're typing it into our Facebook Live feed as we talk. So thanks for sharing that again. And we may come back to that a little bit later on, right before we adjourn, just to remind people that there are all sorts of campaigns that are going on. I know that organizations are really trying to fill in gaps as much as possible. But I think one of the things that really resonates from this conversation is that you really are serving an age group that oftentimes really goes, how can I say, under the radar. So it's important, I think, to talk about the gaps that you're really trying to address here. So tell us a little bit more around what you have experienced with engaging with others during this time. And I know that Zoom can be, in many ways, a great way to convene with people. It's not how I think most of us are used to doing it. We're used to the one-on-one, going to our meetings, going to our networks, or a chamber meeting, or wherever it is that you convene with others. Give us a little bit more an idea of how you have been keeping these relationships going with others in your networks.
Kim and I were actually talking about this the other day. Because we belong to such a large nationwide network, if we're lucky, we get to see our out-of-town colleagues maybe once a year. We're actually supposed to be in Washington in a couple of weeks for our annual conference, and of course it's been canceled. So our national organization has actually been hosting bi-weekly check-in calls where we're sharing resources, because we're all facing the same challenge of how to deliver programming to young people who are no longer in front of us. And so those calls every other week have actually, I feel, brought us closer together, because we're getting to see people, while it may be virtually, but we're getting to see people that normally we only get FaceTime with once a year. So while I think we're all adjusting to the exhaustion of Zoom calls, it's actually been wonderful. Even on a personal note, Kim and I have a group of other executive directors that we lovingly refer to as the Lionesses. And we maybe get together about once every quarter to break bread and have a drink and kind of commiserate in whatever challenges we're facing. we've gone to bi-weekly happy hours. And so tonight at 6 o'clock, actually, we get to see our girlfriends and again, kind of decompress from the challenges that we're all facing of delivering youth programming to young people who are sitting in their own homes. So while I think that it has been a big adjustment, and I don't know that the number of Zoom calls will continue once we actually go back to the office, I've actually enjoyed getting to see people that I wouldn't normally get to see. So I actually think collaboration has increased during this time, not decreased.
Well, when you belong to such a large network in our national organization, and they've been doing oodles of calls, when you see 300-400 people on a Zoom call and they're sharing their struggles and their strategies and best practices, it expands what we'll be doing exponentially across a huge area. What's happening in this part of the country or this part of the world, it gives you some pause to understand that we're all having the same kind of issue, right? Yeah. And that we're all experienced, but we all can share what we know. So we've done a lot around best practices and all the different aspects of what we do. We've talked about self-care and what people are doing to not only self-care for themselves, but help their young people learn how to self-care. So yeah, it's tiring. Let's not get it twisted. It is tiring to do 3-4 Zoom calls a day, several over the course of a week. But the reality is it has been amazingly beneficial and amazingly the ideas and innovations and creativity that you see across the world is just glorious. So
some ideas that you've been able to maybe even kind of ponder, this might work here.
Yeah, absolutely. Or gosh, we should do that too, because wow, so yeah, it's been great.
In the last few minutes that we have left on the interview, and thank you again, both of you, for jumping on this call today. By the way, Sarah, Chuck Wexler says hello. Thanks for watching, Chuck.
That's my cousin.
Oh, really? Good. Family. Yeah. Great. And Kim, I want to go back to something you just said, because we, have been asking everyone that we've had a chance to interview how they're doing self-care. And so I think this is a great way to kind of segue into the last part of our chat. So I don't know, who would like to start with answering what your self-care routine is?
Well, walking. Getting up and doing a walk with my sister, 3 or 4 times a week, so that you get that energy starting with the morning. I'm doing this trivia contest, which I mentioned to you earlier, with KCRW every single day.
4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock. It's only 5 minutes, and it's so much fun. My husband and I do that. But we're doing puzzles as a family. We're doing games as a family. And happy hour is always a good thing to do. So just creating kind of the fun stuff along with the structure, getting up every day, doing the routine you would do as if you were going to the office, as opposed to staying in your pajamas and not doing the whole teeth brushing thing. Work the way you would work. So that's the way to help stay sane. Yes, the first 2 weeks are a struggle because everybody wants a piece of you. If you have a household, especially with kids or pets, everybody wants to talk to you all day long. It's like, really? No. Right. But you get into a rhythm and a routine. And once you get that rhythm and routine, it's relatively easy to do.
Sarah?
Definitely trying to enjoy the opportunities that I have to be with my family. I share my home with my husband and my mother-in-law and our wonderful dog. And so getting the opportunity to actually be at home, it's not something I've had the opportunity to do for this length of time, I don't think ever in my adult life. So while I am hopeful that things will return to pre-pandemic status, enjoying the opportunity that I have to be with family, to get to cook and not have to worry about rushing home and, oh my God, what am I going to make for dinner? And well, the kitchen's right behind me. So having that flexibility, spending more time talking to my friends and family than just kind of realizing, oh, it's been months since I've talked to anybody. Definitely doing some binge watching, made it all caught up through 3 seasons of The Good Fight, which is a spinoff from The Good Wife. So just trying to stay sane. Sleeping more than ever too, which has been quite nice.
Great. Well, listen,
Yeah.
Thank you both. We so appreciate you taking time from your busy schedules, and thank you for helping to weave and illustrate a picture of how you're doing this time, which is a balance of both. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to get done, and quite frankly, really serious work. And you've always been in serious work, honestly, but obviously with the situation, it just elevates the need even more. But we always appreciate hearing from local leaders how they just deal with life. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we still have to find a balance with everything. So before we sign off, I just want to remind everyone who's watching now and who will watch, please visit the website. We actually have it in our feed. And what is that website again, Kim and Sarah? Can you just say the website?
www.comptonyouthbuild.org.
Great. And so there will be a link to contribute to this fundraiser, which again, you all got a chance to hear a little bit more about it. So again, Kim, Sarah, your team, who's hopefully watching this too, thank you all for the wonderful work you do. We've really also enjoyed working with your organization over the last several months, and we've gotten a chance to know more of you. So thank you again for being a part of this today, and to everyone out there, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We appreciate all the support we've received from the nonprofit partnership, and we refer our colleagues to you guys all the time. So thank you for everything that you're doing to support us during this time.
And it's interesting, we had that one, Brian, I was getting ready to say something similar. And in addition, if you're a nonprofit out there and you're not with the nonprofit partnership, you're really missing out. So we, again, very appreciative, and thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you so much. Happy hour later with you too.
Yes,
thank you for that plug.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.